Deanna from Wisconsin Rapids saw you on Michael Feldman's What Do You Know last week. And she really enjoyed that you expressed a need for better cooperation in Washington, but she's also wondering how often you vote in favor of Republican legislation or work with Republicans on legislation.
Yeah, that's a great question. I enjoyed doing Michael Feldman's What Do You Know? I've watched that or listened to the program myself. We had a lot of fun. He's very bright and witty. Got into a little bit of what's happening in Washington. I found it's easy to criticize myself as an elected official and Congress given the weak performance coming out of Washington lately. But I meant what I said when I was being interviewed by Michael Feldman. We need more bipartisan cooperation. We need more people willing to get together, listen to each other, work hard to find common ground. I've tried to behave that way ever since I was first elected to represent the people of the 3rd Congressional District. I think that's the only way our democracy can function, is through give and take, through compromise, trying to find a bipartisan path forward. In fact, I have a couple of examples of doing just that. Just recently, I teamed up with Republican Representative Michelle Bachmann, who has the congressional district right across the St. Croix River in Minnesota from my congressional district. We have been in need of a new bridge across that span for a very long time. Yet we had to bring authorizing legislation to be able to move forward on that important infrastructure project. So working with Michelle, as well as other members of the Wisconsin and Minnesota delegation, we were finally able to get that legislation passed. And just a couple of weeks ago, we both attended the groundbreaking for that new bridge project, something that's been in the works for over 50 years. So it was an example of us coming together in a bi-state, bipartisan way to get an important project done that affects both of our states in the upper Midwest. I've also recently introduced legislation with fellow Representative Tom Petri from Wisconsin to tighten up and reform the crop insurance program as part of this next farm bill that we're working on. Both Tom and I agree that we think what's being done with crop insurance is way too excessive, with overly generous taxpayer subsidized premium support for crop insurance with no limitations, which means that certain agribusinesses are able to get over $1 million worth of taxpayer premium subsidies. We think that's wrong. We need to be more fiscally responsible for the tax dollar. We need to make sure that farming also contains an element of risk. And if you make crop insurance cover all losses, you take all risk out of farming. So we're hoping to be able to introduce that amendment when the Farm Bill does come up for consideration. And then finally, on the Ways and Means Committee, I've always been reaching out to my Republican colleagues on the committee to introduce common sense tax reform legislation that would benefit small businesses, especially throughout the country. In fact, Representative Dave Reichert and I, a friend of mine from Washington State, introduced a bill called the SAVE Act to make it easier for small businesses to set up simple IRAs, simple 401ks for the employees working in those small businesses. We discovered that there's a big black hole when it comes to retirement savings opportunity. It's usually with small businesses and the people working in them that aren't given the same opportunity that those in larger companies offer. So we're hoping to be able to move forward on that SAVE Act, again in a bipartisan fashion, in order to get something done that's meaningful to small business owners and their workers throughout our country. There are more examples like that, but we need to get back to that type of process around here in order to make sure that this Congress functions the way it was intended to, and that we can get things done to help promote growth and economic opportunity for all Americans in the country. Thanks for the question.